So the topic that I wanted to talk about today was a topic that has to do with dealing with hardship, dealing with what can sometimes become, dealing with pain, but even on a deeper level where it becomes even to the point of possibly depression, and how really this life is not. I mean, of course, this life is not Jannah. This life will never be Jannah. And only Jannah can be Jannah, and that this life we know we will have struggles in this life. We will have to encounter loss in this life. We will have to encounter pain in this life. Things don't always turn out the way we want, but there's I think what I want to talk about today is basically what I would say some advice that we're told by Allah and His Messenger of how to get through what we'll call maybe the struggle of this life. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الإنسان إنك كادح إلى ربك كدحا فملاقيه, which means, O mankind, indeed you are toiling, ever toiling, painfully toiling towards your Lord, but you shall meet Him. So first, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayah is saying that it's almost like when a friend is comforting you, and that friend comforts you by telling you, I know what you're going through. Like, I understand that you're struggling, understand what you're going through. And that's how she begins to comfort you, right? By just understanding, by just basically just sometimes acknowledging your struggle is enough to comfort you. To say, I see it, I understand, right? Almost giving validity to what it is that you're going through, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begins here by saying, yes, you are struggling, you are toiling towards your Lord. Because what is the end to all of this struggle? Where do all matters end? At Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the end. And all matters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-awwal wal-akhir. He is the first, the beginning, there's nothing before Him, and He is al-akhir, the last. Everything goes with Him. He is the end. Everything is moving towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and everything ends with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the end. So when we are struggling and toiling, no matter what it is that we are striving for, it's still Allah, because Allah is the end. Allah is the final destination. But there is this ayah ends with hope, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ends this ayah with is that you shall meet Him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and this, by the way, Allah is addressing all of mankind. So sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran will address the believers, right? And sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses all of mankind. In this ayah, He's addressing all of mankind. So it's talking that it's not just the believers who are toiling towards Allah, but everybody, all of humanity is, for all of time, is toiling towards this end, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِنَّكَ كَادِحٌ إِلَى رَبِّكَ كَدَحًا فَمُلَاقِيهِ. The hope here is that you will eventually meet Him. And this is hope for the believer, that there will come an end to the struggle, to the toil, and it will be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, there's another ayah that I want to share with you. This is an ayah which personally has a very deep meaning for me personally. It's an ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I see it as a warning. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to us, He warns us from taking, He says, لا تدعوا مع الله إلها آخر. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is warning us from calling on an ilah other than Allah. Okay, so I've translated everything except for the word ilah, and then I'll talk about, and then at the end of the ayah I'll get to that. So the first thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says is He's warning us, advising us, do not call on an ilah other than Allah. And then Allah says, or at the end of the ayah says, or you will be among the tormented. Okay, so usually when we look at an ayah like this, we might think, if we look at it from a very sort of surface way, you would see it as, don't worship a statue, or don't worship other than Allah. Otherwise, on the day of judgment or in the hereafter, you're going to go to hell. And that's definitely one meaning to this ayah. Obviously, this is true, but there is more to this ayah than just that. In order to really understand what it is, you have to understand the meaning of the word ilah. And when you look and you study the meaning of the word ilah, it comes from, every Arabic word can be broken down into 3 root letters, right? Okay, so when you look at the root letters that make up the word ilah, you get a couple of meanings. One of the meanings has to do with finding shelter. One of the meanings has to do with finding refuge. One of the meanings has to do with basically having such a strong feeling towards something, that you just cling to it, you run to it. And one of the meanings actually is about a she-camel, like the baby of a she-camel, that when it's lost and then it finds its mother, and it's like nestled with its mother. All of these meanings to the word ilah are much different than just something you pray to. You guys understanding what I'm saying here? That it gives you the sense of a refuge, a comfort, of feeling so strongly towards something that you basically go to it because of the intensity of emotion. You seek it for comfort or for shelter. So now when we take this meaning of ilah and we put it back in the ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, don't seek refuge, don't seek shelter, don't seek ultimate comfort, don't go to something other than Allah for these things, or you're going to suffer. And your suffering is not just in the hereafter, as we know. I mean, any of us who've lived in this life long enough know that when you seek something other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you ultimate comfort, or you put your complete dependency on anything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it will torment you, it will let you down, it will hurt you. And this is the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is like a universal law. And the reason for this is nothing else other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the ilah. And that's what we're saying when we say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. We're saying that we bear witness that there is nothing that can be an ilah. And now we've talked about this other meaning of ilah, in addition to obviously what you worship and what you pray to, but what you're seeking for comfort. What is your ultimate refuge? What is your ultimate refuge? That nothing else can be that except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So one thing is too that you see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of His mercy, now this is what we also have to see. Imagine that I'm in a situation and I need help. I'm in trouble, I'm in a difficulty, I'm struggling with something, and I need help. And usually when we're in a situation like that, the first thing we do is we seek some sort of means from the dunya. Alright? We might seek security. We want security, right? We want security, we want help, we want to hold on to something, we want to depend on something. Because we can't, and sometimes that thing, by the way, that you try to depend on is your own self, which is the same problem. It's the same problem. Because myself is also a creation and is also weak and also is not an ilah. I'm not an ilah. Okay? And in fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about people who take their own selves as an ilah. In fact, He says that they take their desires as an ilah. So this is also something that we need to avoid. Taking our own self, our own desires as an ilah. Similarly, taking anything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as an ilah. So what we do in this situation, we're having difficulty, we need help, we want to hold on to something, we want to depend on something, we seek security in other than Allah. So maybe we might start out by seeking security in our money, in our wealth. We might try by seeking security in our job. We might try to seek this in our relationships, in the people around us, in our parents, in our children, in our friends, in our spouse. Okay? We'll try to find this comfort, this thing to hold on to, this thing to latch onto. You know, you're climbing a cliff and you need to hold on to something. You need to, because you don't want to fall, right? And so what you do is you hold on to these other things. But what happens then when you do that is a lot of times those things will close. Those things will break, or those things will let you down. So you're seeking, for example, imagine that there are 100 doors to find shelter in, and only one door is the correct door. Every other door has a drop. Imagine that it's just a, you know, it's a fake. I mean, basically, you open the door, as soon as you enter the door, you fall because there's a drop. Okay. Now Allah Subhanahu wa Taala knows this. We don't know this, but Allah Subhanahu wa Taala knows this. And by the way, He warns us of this many times in the Quran. Allah Subhanahu wa Taala knows that every other door other than His just has a drop. You're just going to fall. You're just going to break. So sometimes out of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala's mercy, He actually keeps the door closed. You're sitting there banging and knocking on the door, trying to seek that thing, and Allah keeps it closed. This is Allah Subhanahu wa Taala closing the means. Allah Subhanahu wa Taala will close. So maybe I'm having my trust, or I'm seeking, or I'm putting my hope in something other than Allah, and this is me knocking on the door. This is me trying to seek refuge and shelter in that thing, which is me knocking on the door. And out of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala's mercy, He will not open that door for me, or that door will close for me. I can't, I'm trying, but I can't get to it. I can't get to it. Then I leave that door, I go to a new door. Another means other than Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Another person. This person let me down, I go to this person. I'm talking about people here because we're sisters here. And this is what we tend to do. We tend to, other people, men, I think their sort of their weakness is they try to depend on themselves. Right? That's kind of where they get their sense of, self-respect, and I don't need anybody. I can do it myself.
Or I provide for my family. It's my job.
Exactly. It's coming from me. I'm the one. So it's this idea of needing to feel self-sufficient, to feel autonomous, right? But it's the same trap. It's just another door. But for us women, we tend to depend on our relationships. We tend to seek other people as our door. So our door is other people. But guess what? So we go to one person, they let us down, we go to another. We go to another. We keep trying. This friend, man, they let us down, we go to this other friend. We try our husband. We try our parents. We try one after the other, and each door is closed. Each door is closed. Finally, we've tried every single door. What do we do now? Now we knock on Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala's door. Now this is the only door left. That's why we're going to it. That's why we're going to it. Because we've tried all the rest and they're closed. Or maybe we tried it, we fell. Okay, we're not going to do that one again. Let's try this one. But subhanAllah, you see how Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala really, He protects us, and He, out of His mercy, He makes these other doors close. Or He makes these other doors hurt us. What happens when somebody or something hurts you? Imagine that you're extremely attached to something, and it's perhaps a rival with Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala in your heart. It's a rival with Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala in your heart. What do I mean by that? You love this thing so much. It's your kid, it's your wife, it's your husband, it's your parents, it's your friend, it's money, it's status, it's beauty, whatever it is. You hold it very high in your heart. It has a very big place in your heart. Now, if Allah, what happens if that very thing which you love and you're so attached to and so dependent upon, what happens when it stings you? Well, the first time it stings you, okay, it kind of, sort of affects your attachment, but it's all right. Then it does it again and again. If something continuously hurts you again and again and again, eventually what happens to your attachment and your dependency on that thing? It weakens. It weakens, and then eventually it breaks, and eventually you may even turn your back on that thing. This is the dunya. The dunya, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and the creation, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has designed it in such a way that if I seek the creation as a rival to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, I seek the dunya in a way that I shouldn't, it will hurt me. This is Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala's design. It will hurt me in order to show me, it's not me, like it's not the right door. It's not the right door. Keep going. You're not there yet. You're not there yet. So it redirects me, and it redirects me towards the right answer. The right answer is only one, and it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's only one right answer. There's only one ilah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, لا تدعوا مع الله إلها آخر. Don't call on another ilah other than Allah. Don't call on another refuge. Don't call on another shelter other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you do, you will be among the tormented. It will cause you pain. And that, subhanAllah, that whole design of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to push us towards the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The fact that when I try to get too close or depend too much on the creation, it pushes me to Allah. And I'll give you a lot of examples in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation that's like this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation is such that from far away it's beautiful. From far away it's beautiful, and that beauty is a pointer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's beauty. Okay? So, for example, those candles right there. Like, from where I'm at right now, they're extremely beautiful. Right? But what happens if I get too close to those candles? They will burn me. Okay. The sun. The sun, the sunset, the sunrise, the sun is beautiful from far away. What happens if you get too close to the sun? Right? If the sun were you guys, I don't know if you know about these, like, it's crazy. Like, if the sun were even just a tiny bit closer to the earth, what would happen? And they make like movies out of this and stuff, like, right? We would die. We would boil and to death. Okay? The stars. The stars are very beautiful from where we're at, from far away, right? The creation. But when you get close to a star, what is a star? It's like gas, burning up gas. I mean, you can get close to it. A cloud. Okay, so like if you travel and you look at these clouds from the airplane, it's so beautiful. You can't look at a cloud with the right mind and not say subhanallah. It's beautiful.
Fluffy.
They look, and that's beautiful, right? They're fluffy. She says they're fluffy, but it's an illusion. Because if you get, what happens if you get too, you go into so you're in the airplane, from far away, it's fluffy, it has shape, it's beautiful. But when you get into it, it actually disappears because it's nothing. Yeah. SubhanAllah.
It looks so solid.
It looks so solid.
Thick and dense.
Perfect.
But yeah,
it's a mirage, really, right? You get to it, you get into it, it's actually not really there. SubhanAllah. The idea here is what? That the creation, it's beautiful from the outside. It's intended to be beautiful from the outside, but it's intended for a certain reason. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ لَآيَاتٍ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. Indeed, in the creation of the heavens and the earth, إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ, and the alteration of night and day, لَآيَاتٍ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. That in these things, إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ لَآيَاتٍ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. These are indeed signs for those who reflect, for those who have albab. Albab, ulil albab, basically those who have a mind and who use it, who think, who reflect. All of these things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts beauty in are a sign for those who reflect. That fire is a sign for those who reflect. The sun is a sign for those who reflect. The ocean that you guys, we live just like minutes away from is a sign for those who reflect. A sign of what? A sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A sign of Allah's greatness. A sign of Allah's beauty. A sign of Allah's oneness. But let me ask you this. What happens if you can sit on the shore and you can look at the ocean and you can say, Masha Allah, Allahu Akbar. That ocean is beautiful. But what happens if you get too close to the ocean? What happens if you enter the ocean? That's when you drown. You guys feel me? So the creation, this is the nature of the creation. And I'm giving you guys these are metaphors, but I'm telling you guys this because it will happen with all of the creation, including other people, including human beings, including relationships. When you take your relationships and you try to depend on them, you try to get too close in a sense, and you try to basically put somebody at a place where only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can be. either in your love or in your dependency, that will be your source of pain. It will torment you, it will hurt you, it will let you down. And through that process, that's when you are pushed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So never think that that process is necessarily bad. That is a purifying process. It is essentially a liberating process. Because what you're doing, what's happening through that process is you're being liberated of your attachments to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you're being pushed towards the ultimate attachment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. So in the context of depression or in the context of hardship, pain, struggle, I want to encourage you and myself to see it in a different light, to see the disappointment, the struggle, the loss, the pain, all of it. I want to ask us to see it in a different light, to actually see it as a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and as a purifier from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to clean my heart of anything else other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because our hearts are full of other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our hearts are full of dunya. We are full of dunya in our hearts. And through these hard times, that's when we're purified. And there's a really beautiful quote, it's a Rumi quote, where he says that when somebody beats a rug, the beating is not intended for the rug, it's intended for the dirt inside of the rug. Now, when we go through hardship, that hardship is not intended to hurt us, is what I'm saying. It's not intended to hurt us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is more merciful to us than a mother is to her child. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want pain for us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want to hurt us. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants good for us. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to clean us, wants to purify us, and wants to liberate us. And so we are full of, again, we are full of these attachments, these chains, but that's exactly what they are. They keep us chained to the dunya, they keep us chained to people, and it's through these sometimes sort of these hardships or this pain that we are purified. If you think about the process of gold being purified, what do you do to gold to purify it? The thing you do to gold to purify it is you heat it up. You heat up gold in order to remove the impurities from it. And subhanAllah, even in the Quran, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about hardship, He says, لِيُمَحِّصَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. And the word يُمَحِّص, tamhis, means, it's like the same word that's used for the purification of gold. It's that heating up. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses that exact word and in saying that the hardship, when we send hardship and tribulation, this is what it does to the believer. Tamhis. لِيُمَحِّصَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. But this is only for the believer. For the believer, hardship is a purification. And so it is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not a punishment. It's not, we shouldn't even see it as something bad. But we should see it as something that is actually elevating us and something that is bringing us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it says that the matters of a believer are strange. And the reason why the matters of a believer are strange is because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us that everything for a believer is good for him. If something he dislikes, some hardship comes to him, he's patient, so it's good for him. And if something that he likes, something, good, in parentheses, in quotation marks, something that he likes comes to him, he is grateful, so it's good for him. And this case, he emphasizes that this is only the case for the believer. So you see that the situation for if you truly are a believer and you truly seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then no matter what happens in your life, it is good for you. Imagine that. Imagine a situation where no matter what comes your way, it's good for you. The reason why it's good for you is it brings you nearer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And let's think for a second, ultimately, what's our goal? All of this dunya is passing away. And in the end, What's going to determine success or failure? The only thing that's going to determine success or failure is where we stand with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with us, we've succeeded, and it does not matter how or what happened in this life.